Hey everyone, it's Theriault-Your Maine Real Estate Guide, and today I'm making a video to respond to some comments that came in from the video that I did yesterday, which was about burning firewood for heat in northern Maine. I had a couple of questions, and we'll see where this video goes. I've got a couple of notes, but largely those of you that follow along and have followed me on YouTube for a while know that I kind of shoot from the hip and just have a conversation. So today we're going to talk about some potential pitfalls of heating with firewood, and what to look for, I guess, in a house, or if you're planning on building a property that you're planning on burning wood. What would be a better situation for a chimney in regards to burning firewood. So we're situated right now down in our family room here in my home, next to the wood stove that is our primary heat source. We do have a forced hot air furnace that uses #2 heating oil as secondary source of heat. If if we're going to be away, there's no one here to maintain the fire, whatnot. The house isn't going to get chilled during the winter months. But while we're here during the winter time, and from October through late April, May, this will be going as necessary. Yesterday was a beautiful day because it was nice and sunny, and I didn't really need the wood stove to provide heat because I was getting a lot of passive heating from the sunshine. So, kind of a side note. If you have dogs, I think one of your primary jobs is the door opener. That's what I do a lot. Open and close the door, let them in and out, because they're never on the right side of the door. But anyway, so let's talk a little more about some best practices for heating with wood. One of the comments I had yesterday was regarding creosote, and the fact that creosote there's higher concentrations of creosote in softwood, and that is true. There is no question about it. Softwood does have higher levels of creosote, and creosote, for those of you that have never been exposed to it, don't understand what it is. It's almost like tar in large quantities, and it's black. It's very sticky, and when it combusts. But if it ignites, it burns very hot. Creosote is, if you've ever heard of folks having a chimney fire, it's related to creosote buildup in the chimney, and then the creosote finally ignited and causes a chimney fire, and it burns very hot, so it can actually damage the chimney. So regarding creosote. All species of wood have it, but softwood has it more. But the biggest danger where creosote buildup occurs is not necessarily in the wood species that you're burning, but the temperature at which you're burning, and maybe the moisture content of the wood that you're burning. At my camp in Springfield, the only firewood I have available right now, because we just bought the place last winter. Actually, we closed on it in I think May when we closed on it. But and the firewood that is there is wet. It's not very good. This summer I'm going to actually load it up with my tractor, buckets full, and just go spread it in the woods, because it's just nasty, mushroom laden, wet pieces of wood. I've burnt some of it while I was out there working this fall because that's all I had. And it did deposit some creosote in the chimney down there, and I'll have to clean that chimney. But I'm going to build a wood shed, so going forward at camp, I'll have better wood and less creosote buildup. Anecdotally, I sold a house a couple of years ago for some folks. Actually sold it twice. I sold it for the original builders of the house, and then I resold it when the person that purchased it from them decided he wanted to move and sold the house. The folks that built it had lived there for over 20 years and never really had a creosote issue at their house, and they heated with wood. It was an off-grid home. The new owner, for whatever reason, when he purchased the home, figured he knew everything about heating with wood, and there is a little bit of a learning curve that goes along with that, I guess. And the problem with if you don't know something, you don't know what you don't know. And in his case, he was making several mistakes in the heating of his home. One, he replaced the wood stove that was there, which was perfectly adequate. It was a really nice airtight wood stove, clean burning, and it was properly sized for the structure. And he bought a real expensive, really pretty stove from Vermont Casting. It was beautiful, but it was oversized for the house. So the two mistakes he was making: he was buying his firewood late in the season, and it wasn't seasoned. So he would get his firewood in late October, and it was wet, had high moisture content. The other thing he was doing is he had a stove that was too big for the space, so he had to burn a fire that was choked off. And by that I mean, pardon me while I play doorman. By that I mean, this is a damper. This controls the combustion air into a firebox. Right now I have a small hot fire going in my stove, and it'll continue to burn that way all day. So it has a lot of combustion air, a small amount of fuel in the firebox. It's burning nice and hot. There's very little emissions coming out of my chimney. It's clean burning. He would have to choke off his stove and have a smoke-laden fire so because you didn't have nearly 100% combustion. You had a lot of things that weren't burning, and the stack temperature was too low. And so what would happen is that creosote would build up in the chimney because it adheres to cold surfaces. The chimney temperature was cold because he was burning a fire without a lot of heat, because otherwise it would get too hot in the house. I mean, there was a lot of things going on here. And he actually filled his chimney solid full of creosote. I mean, solid full. You could look down. It was closed off. You couldn't burn he couldn't burn a fire anymore because he had plugged his chimney up solid with creosote. And this was at a home that people had lived in prior to that for over 20 years with no issues. So all of that creosote problem wasn't due to just the wet wood, but it was a combination of things. Wet wood, but mostly poor fire management, because you have to manage your fire. A case in point would be this: if you're burning firewood and you had one large stick that was about this size, but one solid piece, and you put that in the stove all by itself, it won't burn nearly as well, and it'll cause a lot more smoke than if you split that stick into 3 pieces. You're putting in the same amount of wood, but you're going to get a cleaner burn with that one large stick split in 3 than inserted all together, because you get more surface area for the fire to burn. It just burns cleaner. Don't tell my wife, but that's one of my pet peeves with with her. She often just puts one stick of wood in the fire. I'll tell you right now, from experience, from managing this wood stove for over 2 decades, it burns a lot better with 2 or 3 sticks than one. One kind of, it'll burn, but it smolders, and then you have more smoke. What to look for in a house if you're looking at an off-grid property, or even on-grid, but you want to burn firewood. The best place for chimney placement for a home that you're going to burn wood, again, because creosote builds up on cold surfaces, is you want a chimney in the center of the house. You don't want it on a cold wall. So let's look at this. So here we are. We're kind of in the center of the house, and I have this stack that goes up into the first floor where there's a fireplace up there. So let's take a walk. There are two flues in my chimney, one for the fireplace and one for the wood stove. But here's, you can kind of see where the chimney is. It's in the center of the house. So by nature, it's warmer than if it was on the exterior wall of a home. When you burn a wood fire, it takes less time to heat up the chimney, and it's just a better placement. And that's all from case studies, I guess. Oftentimes you see people, they'll have a beautiful fireplace and but the fireplace is on the exterior wall. It works, it just doesn't work nearly as well. So keep that in mind if you're looking at a property that you're planning on burning wood. The best place for chimney placement is in the center of the house. There are lots of good clean burning wood stoves out there. This stove here has got some age on it. It was here when we purchased the home. It's made by a Canadian company, Regency. They still make a very similar stove, similarly sized. It just has a few improvements to make it even more clean burning, but it does a heck of a nice job. It's an airtight stove. It's got a blower on it. I've had to replace the blower maybe 3 times over 25 years because they wear out, the blower motors, because they're being used 6 months out of the year. It is brick lined. It has a ceramic baffle. I've replaced the baffle a couple of times in the stove, and it has these, you really can't see it, and even if I opened up the firebox you wouldn't be able to see it right now. But it's got these tubes along the top of the firebox that they're there to mix more combustion air for a secondary burn, kind of like a catalytic converter. So you get more heat, but also less emissions. So this is a real nice brand, and there are others that are very, very similar that are out there. But this is properly sized for a home of about 2,500 square feet. So when purchasing a wood stove, you don't necessarily want the biggest stove for the money. You want the right stove for the money for your space. So in conclusion, burning firewood is a great way to heat your home, but there are some things you need to know to manage the fire, to burn it as cleanly as possible, to have less potential issues. Creosote is a real danger especially if you're unfamiliar with properly seasoning wood, avoid wet wood. I'm not so worried about the species I burn. I haven't had any creosote issues at my property here, but I burn a very hot fire, and my chimney is properly designed for doing just what we're doing, heating with wood. So it helps mitigate those issues. I tend to season my firewood for at least 12 months. Usually most of it gets 18 to 24 months of seasoning before it goes in the stove, so it's pretty well seasoned. But I appreciate the comments from you folks that have been watching these videos. Keep them coming. I'll try to provide content. That's one of the things I like about selling real estate and the type of real estate that I do sell. When I'm walking with a buyer, we can talk about a lot of different things. For those of you that are new to this channel and new to me, Rick Theriault, your Maine Real Estate Guide, well, I'm a lifelong resident of the state of Maine. I've got a background in electrical engineering. I've dabble in alternative energy. I have a wind turbine, 10,000 watt wind turbine on a 120-foot tower on my property. I've got 3,000 watts of solar power on a rack. We heat with firewood. I have an orchard that I keep. I grow blueberries. I keep honeybees. Got some chickens. I got bird dogs. I worked as a professional hunting and fishing guide for over 20 years. So I can talk about a lot of stuff. So if you're looking for real estate, or you just want to talk about living in Maine, just click that subscribe button and enjoy the ride. And I hope to provide more quality content for you in the months and years to come.